We're here today to talk about HIV and AIDS, how we can raise awareness of HIV and AIDS amongst young people in their 20s and 30s in the gay community. And I want to ask people questions that will hopefully provide solutions to the problems that we're facing as a gay community, and why HIV and AIDS, sexual addiction and drug addiction is ravaging our community, and how we can stop it. What was the point in your life that you realized that you had to become an AIDS activist? Was there one instant in your life that propelled you forward to where you are today?
There was a very important moment when my very first close friend was laying dying. 10 days before he died, he was in the hospital and he was in denial. And he had little dots on his head drawn. I think they were blue. And I asked him what they were for, and in a painful, halting voice, he told me that he was going to get radiation. And it was so absurd, because he was in denial. He was letting the medical business doing invasive treatment to the end. And I was so upset, so angry. I walked out, I was in tears. And that got me started in the Right to Die movement. And I've been involved in the Right to Die movement for 19 years.
How long have you been positive?
Wow, actually last month in May was my 10th year anniversary. So I'm officially a long-term survivor of HIV disease.
I'm HIV positive, and hey, I didn't know I was going to become like that, but hey, that's life.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how it's going to happen to me, but hey, it happened to me.
Yeah, but do you think that when people are on drugs, their life
I was safe, and I always safe.
Yes, that's definitely yes.
I've been safe, yes. You understand?
Yeah.
But the one person you met, and that's going to be the liar and the cheater. Right. So hey, when you think you love somebody, you don't love them, they don't love you.
But when you have sex with someone, you have to assume everyone is positive, don't you?
Yes.
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 Yes. But as I said,
you ask
I
the question, and maybe some of them say yes. You go with the intention. You go with the honesty. That's where you rely on, the honesty.
At the first
Once
time,
you say they're not, then you go with that. Right. That's what it is.
We dated for like 3 years, and I did safe sex, and that 1 or 3 times I did it. And here you go, and here am I standing up with HIV.
There's a little bit of a dichotomy that happens between, the fact that there are drugs that effectively treat the disease now, so people feel like they can do what they want to do. But it's not a cure, and it's not worth it. Like, I look like this, I look really great, but, it doesn't mention the fact that I'm on 25 different drugs. A day.
Kids that didn't live through the 80s, they seem to be oblivious to even what's going on in Africa a lot of the time, and they're just barraged by HIV medication advertising, and I don't think they really get it. I think they can drop a pill and they think that it goes away. Like, how do we raise awareness with 20-year-old kids?
Well, there are some that are involved. I mean, I went marching in the past 3 years 3 times, and there are incredible marches for peace, for women's rights, for gay rights. So there are kids that are, it's exciting to see kids that are totally involved in politics, and then there are some that just want to party.
Do kids in their 20s know even what HIV, what's really happening?
See this? These speak no evil, hear no evil. It goes to youth AIDS, because 15 to 24 is they say the most rapidly growing demographic.
What ages?
15 to
24. And it's Latin girls, right, as well?
I don't know.
And black girls?
I don't know, because you think you're invincible when you're young.
I'm here with Andrea. You're a straight girl.
Right.
And you're Latin.
Yes.
Where are you from?
I have family from Panama, and I also have family from Spain.
Are you aware that HIV is rising amongst young Latin girls in the ages of 16 and 24?
Yes, I am.
What can you tell me about that? What do you know about that?
I just think, I know it's because of like lack of education and safety amongst like these type of like their population. Like the education isn't there for them, and it's not, there's no like resources for them to go to, you know, like if there's a problem or just to be tested for anything.
Whose fault is that?
It's a mix of the culture and maybe their parents aren't aware and didn't tell them, and schools maybe also, because they go to school a lot, and when you're not told things in school, you don't know about it most of the time. So it's a mix of a lot of things, like culture especially.
Is it something you talk about amongst your friends?
Some of them, not all of them, no. But I've told them how like important it is to be tested, and I've been like the friend who they call and they're like, "Where's Planned Parenthood?"
Kids in their 20s, they don't know anyone that has died from AIDS. Do you know anyone that died of AIDS?
No.
Do you?
Fortunately.
Do you know anyone that's positive?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Friends?
Friend of friend. Actually, a friend's boyfriend.
Friend's boyfriend? What about you?
No.
No, you don't. See, this is the issue. Do you have safe sex? Do you get tested? What about you?
Yes, on both accounts.
When's the last time you got tested?
About 6 months ago.
But I think these kids think if they pop a pill that it's going to go away, right?
I don't know. I don't know. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my best friend John. And I think about the stupid lies we were told. Bobby had cancer. Bobby didn't have no damn cancer. Bobby had AIDS. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And what about kids today? Do you think that they're? Do you think they've forgotten the 80s because they just weren't here?
Well, they certainly aren't paying any attention to me, so I would assume that they've forgotten what that's like. Yeah.
Because these kids had, they have friends that are positive, but they haven't lost anybody, so they're not afraid of the virus anymore.
That's what they tell us, isn't it? Yeah.
Who's they?
Media,
Yeah.
reporters, people like you, people who go around and try and advocate for safer sexual behavior. That's what we're told. I don't know people. I don't know how they live their lives, whether they're consistently safe or sporadically safe.
Kids in their 20s, they don't remember the 80s, and a lot of people were dying of AIDS in the 80s, and now people don't seem to be dying. But they are dying, but we just don't see it.
Yeah.
So kids in their 20s, and think they can drop a pill and that their problems are going to go away, that they don't have to worry about HIV. What do you think we can do to raise HIV awareness with gay men in their 20s? Do you talk about it with your friends?
No, it usually doesn't come up.
Don't you find that strange?
Yeah, I guess. What do you think, Kyle?
I don't really have conversations about it, but when it comes up where my friends do have it, or I'll go to a party and some of my friends will say, just stay clear of that person over there if you want to have a good time tonight, which is not really talked about. But
Because the person's positive, you mean?
correct, yeah. But I mean, it's always alluded, it's not actually said out loud.
Kids, coming up now are abandoning safer sex way too early in relationships, even if they ever do it in relationships, because they think that the treatment is a cure. But, people need to be up and out and talking about the side effects. Like when you see people on the mountaintop with their backpack, saying that I took, in the advertisements saying I took Sativa and now I'm climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
But in that backpack is handy wipes for the diarrhea, Imodium, Gatorade to rehydrate. I mean, there are some serious side effects that come from the drugs. So although it's a blessing that we have the drugs, it is not a cure, and it should not give people license to go around having unprotected sex.
Do you think kids in school should be educated about HIV and AIDS from a young age?
Yeah, just like they should be educated about evolution.
Because AIDS is part of evolution now, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Do you think that it should be taught mandatory in all schools to children at a young age about HIV and AIDS? It's not though, is it?
No, it's not.
Why do you think?
Because they don't want people to know. I don't know. It's really frowned upon, so they just don't want to, hear about it because it's so negative. And they're trying to change sex education in schools altogether. So.
How old are you now?
19.
19. You're a smart 19.
Thank you.
Did you live through sex and drug addiction in the 80s and 70s?
Well, I certainly drank a lot, and I think that was all part of carefree living then. I was fortunate enough to relocate away from Manhattan and sort of was spared what was going on here and was living in a fairly isolated rural area. So my experiencing of the horror was from a distance.
When I found out that I was HIV positive, you know, the party scene with the drugs and the alcohol turned into a big problem for me. But you know, by the grace, it does for many. You know, it's unfortunately drugs and alcohol is a real affliction in our community as well as HIV.
Sex addiction, drug addiction,
all the addictions.
Crystal meth, but they're all things that are spurring HIV on.
Yeah,
that's why it's growing, right?
Absolutely.
One big part of the increase in AIDS is crystal meth. And that
drug and sex addiction.
Well, yes, it's a double addiction.
Yeah,
crystal meth.
And what's propelling that? It's all, as I said, one minute you see a HIV medication advertisement, and the next page is an ad for a hooker.
I know some.
How are you supposed to...
I know some people that were involved in ACT UP that got hooked on crystal meth. Crystal meth is it's a devil pill.
I know, it's evil.
Evil. So. You know, my friend Peter Stalid is doing an incredible job on it, and he himself got hooked on it. You know, that's hence his involvement. And he was, you know, the most politically active person, and it shows how incredibly addictive it is. So, you know, there's a lot of work to be done on that level. Yes.
I think that in this country, the reason that people are still doing crystal meth, as well as drugs and alcohol and all the other epidemics that are really prevalent in terms of addiction in our community is because this country still doesn't accept LGBT people as first-class citizens. And I think there's a stigma and a self-esteem issue with us as a whole that we still have to deal with, you know, that we're worth living, you know, that our lives are worth living, that we are first-class citizens and that we should enjoy all rights and privileges as anyone else. But I think that the years and years of oppression have eroded our self-love, you know, and so that, you know, we don't think that we are deserving of the love, you know, or God's grace, and so we continue to use. I also need to tell you that I'm clean and sober. You know, like I said, years and years and years, you know, I was buying the press that gay people weren't worth it, that black people weren't worth it, that people who are HIV positive weren't worth it.
What about sexual addiction? Isn't that an epidemic in itself that's very unaddressed?
Well, you know, I came out, you know, I went into rehab 4 years ago and was told that I was, because I had major depression, that I was a sex addict. And I didn't believe it, but then I realized I was. I was not active very much anymore, but it was my head, you know.
Yeah. It's a state of mind, isn't it?
Yes. So ever since I've been out, I have very much told my story one-on-one to my friends, to people, and that's, you know, it's really a story to be told one-on-one.
And your story is amazing. I've read it. It's incredible.
And I've helped a lot of people.
I know you have. I know you have, and I'm really appreciative of that. Yeah. I wish there was more people like you. I want to be more like you.
Because, you know, it's you tell your story. You don't tell people, oh, you know, you're a sex addict, you should do this. No. You tell how you feel, what is happening to you.
Yeah.
And then someone listens to you and they say, oh, shit, you know, I'm hitting the same wall.
You know lesbians that have HIV? Mm-hmm. And how did they contract it?
I didn't ask. You know, I feel like this, that if they want to tell me, they do. Some got it when they were, you know, with male, you know, partner with men. And, you know, they may have contracted it that way. Some ways I would assume, but that's just my assumption, is through...
shooting up?
Yeah.
But can a lesbian get HIV through sex with another woman?
I believe anything's feasible. You know, there's not much studies on lesbians with HIV because what happens, unfortunately, with the government, from what my understanding is if a woman at one time has either shot up or has had sex with a man, they don't even sit there and see it that she possibly could have gotten it from her female partner. They just want to attribute it to the drug use and or having sex with a man. you know, there's not enough research done, I think, in reference to lesbians with HIV.
Do you know anyone in your community that's HIV positive? Any gay girls?
No.
No. Do you?
Gay girls. No.
Do you think there's a lot of advertising about HIV towards women, towards gay girls?
Not at all. No. And I think what's really scary is there aren't any contraceptives easily available to girls in, like, you know, supermarkets and places like that. You know, you find plenty of condoms, but not, you know, for a lesbian, it's just kind of hard.
No dental dams?
No, we actually every time we go
in, we're like, fuck that. There's nothing here.
Right.
But why are lesbians left out of the loop when it comes to HIV?
I think it's because traditionally and just media-wise, and you always associate it with men, and it really shouldn't be. But I mean, when you have movies out and things, Angels in America, things like that, like it's always about men. I mean, what you hear of anyway. Of
so
course,
like
women.
HIV isn't considered a lesbian's problem?
No, I don't think so. No, not at all.
And do you think it is?
I think it's everyone's problem, regardless of sexuality.
Yeah.
I think it's everyone's. It's a community problem. Yeah.
So what do you think we can do to raise awareness?
Make videos about it. Yeah, I think more people need to speak out
Like
about
this
it.
one?
And I think that contraceptives need to be available for everyone.
Including women.
Including women. Yeah. The big thing is, too, I know this is New York City, so it's okay to talk about things, but we live in a very small area of New Jersey, like out in the sticks, and you can't, do you guys think you can't talk about AIDS or HIV? Not at all.
But you discuss it amongst one another, don't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Definitely.
You're not accepted by the Vatican, are you? You're a branch of the Catholic Church?
We're a branch, yeah. We're not accepted by the Vatican. They would call us rebels.
So do you encourage your people that come to your church to use condoms?
Yes, if they're young and they're sexually active, yes.
Do you have friends who died of AIDS?
Yes, I had a priest who died of AIDS.
A priest?
Yes.
Wow, that's really sad. And what do you think, I mean, everything that's happening right now, you think it's a lot down to Catholicism?
And not just Catholicism, it's all of them. You have your fundamental Christians who are trying to stop the Marriage Act, people having equal rights. And I mean, the Bible does not, Christ did not teach hatred. He taught love. And people today are just so in tune about what's happening in the bedroom instead of what's happening in the heart of two people. You don't choose who you don't fall in love with.
Spiritually, you know, I had to kind of rethink the whole disease aspect of HIV, and you know, I used to have this ritual where I put all my pills together for a week, and I would cry when I had to put them together. But then it kind of got the idea that rather than thinking of the pills as a curse, think of them as a blessing. Think of them as a communion, because most of my friends didn't get a chance to take these drugs. So I'm one of the chosen ones that, you know, protease inhibitors came out the month after I became HIV positive, or that I found out I was HIV positive. So I've enjoyed a non-detectable viral load for many years now, you know, but it doesn't have to be a curse.
Wow, it's so strange. When he told me that he was HIV positive, I felt sadness for him, but then I realized that that was misconstrued because he wasn't sad about it. I think that it actually has changed his life in a really beneficial way for him, because, you know, I can't imagine being HIV positive, but I was HIV positive. I would hope that I would be able to do something positive with it, excuse the pun. I hope that I would be able to turn it around in some way and do something positive with my life. And because I know a lot of people that get HIV positive, they either go one of two ways. They either really grow from the experience or it destroys them. And I have a lot of friends who found out they were positive and they're destroying themselves with drugs and even more promiscuous sex and this and that and the other. But I also have a lot of friends who found out they were positive and they're out to change the world and everything else. So I really feel it depends on the individual. But speaking to that guy there, he just seems so full of love and so full of joy that it gives me hope for the future, that if anyone is positive, that they're going to be able to do something remarkable still with their lives. I don't necessarily think HIV and AIDS is a death sentence as such, now that they have medication that helps to keep them alive, but nevertheless, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, there's many different ways that it affects a person, and I think that's very hard to take into account. You know what I mean? Like when people find out they're HIV positive, I don't know what it would do to them spiritually. Why do people still think it's a gay person's disease?
Maybe because GMHC never changed their name.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to do something for their people.
I don't think people think that anymore. I really don't.
You don't?
No, I think there's been enough decent exposure by enough decent people about, you know, the AIDS in Africa, the AIDS in teenagers. I mean, you know, you got all the stars, Christina Aguilera and LL Cool J and Eva Mendes doing this campaign here.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think it's still considered a gay disease by the government?
Possibly, or a disease of drug users and, you know, just subculture that aren't, you know, our proud parents and, you know, upstanding citizens, which isn't true because it affects everyone.
What do you think is the biggest enemy facing a cure for HIV right now and AIDS?
Well, probably I'd say the biggest enemy, obviously.
The government?
No, unfortunately, I feel like the biggest enemy is ourselves because we tend to be a little lackadaisical about knowing what the repercussions are and how it works and what the issues really are.
What do you think is the biggest barrier to HIV awareness that exists today?
Today, in 2006?
Yeah.
The biggest barrier, that it got tucked under the carpet a little bit.
Why do you think it got tucked under the carpet?
Because we're jaded.
Why?
We're jaded. You know what I mean? The people that were there in the beginning of this event, a lot of them are gone, and a lot of them are just, you know, dinosaurs that survived that day and age. We cannot forget that it was the American president and vice president, Reagan and Senior Bush, that ignored for 6 years talking about the disease, admitting that it was there.
They gave 10 million to Legionnaire's disease in a public service announcement, and they did nothing for AIDS.
It was a gay plague, and and the way the people behaved, the way they ignored it is why we're not so far along today.
What do you think is the biggest thing that stands in front of them finding a cure for AIDS and raising awareness for AIDS? What do you think is the enemy of a cure?
This is very broad, but I'm going to say the government. Right. Because they're so preoccupied with other things and like personal agendas. The funding may not be there, or just the interest isn't there. Since it doesn't affect them, they don't care.
You think that politicians don't care about AIDS?
They do care, but it's just not on the front burner. You know, they're kind of like, oh, I'm worried about, you know, my SUV or something.
What about the government to cure pharmaceutical companies and advertising?
There's too much money in pharmaceuticals for them to sit there and push too hard for a cure, I believe. You
really?
know? Yeah, because the price of antiretroviral, you know, the top companies, they're making millions, you know, over, you know, treating the virus, when those millions, I feel, should be used to work towards a cure.
Right.
You know, I mean, they talk about a vaccine, but you hear it like little pieces, but never really what's going on with it.
Did you lose loads of friends during the 80s?
I certainly lost some.
You did? And you can't really describe to anyone what it's like to lose a friend from AIDS, can you? Because...
Oh, I'm sure I can.
So describe it to me.
I had a friend who moved to New York, and I came here and visited him and ended up working in the same company he did for a while. His name was Terry. And I really miss him. And it's been about, it's been more than, he was actually one of the very first people that died. And I know it's hard to do this sort of on cue, but we went through growing up together, and it's a shame that we can't go through growing old together.
Do you have many friends who passed away from HIV?
Listen, I have buried so many friends. You know, I've had several conversations with my mother, who is in her late 70s, and you know, I talk about the fact that I've buried more friends than she has. You know. at 76 years old. You know, I'm 46, and you know, I've buried countless amounts of friends.
Did you have a lot of friends who died of AIDS?
Yes. Yeah.
And no one can describe what that feels like, right?
No.
And do you still have friends that are HIV positive today?
A couple, yeah, but they're living. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you ever been tested for HIV?
Yes, I have.
You have? Why did you get tested?
Because it's something you need to know. Because like if you have it, you may not even know. So like you should just know in general.
Yeah. Do you get tested for HIV?
Yes.
And you have safe sex?
Yes.
So why doesn't everybody else do it?
I don't know. It's up to their choice. You know, everybody is different. You know, they think differently, and you know that's their choice.
When's the last time you got tested?
About 3 weeks ago.
Oh wow. Do you get tested regularly?
I try to, yeah.
You try to. But I don't think, is everybody getting tested? I don't think they are they?
I don't know. I actually haven't really been talking about it recently.
I think that's another thing, is that people don't communicate about it. Do you think that it's something we do as gay people, is talk about HIV?
No. What do you think we talk about?
Sex. But not HIV, right?
Nope.
Why? Is it a part of the same thing?
Maybe because one is more fun than the other.
So what do you think is the hope for the future? What can we do to make it better?
That more funding is given to assist those that are HIV positive. You know, given to agencies, you know, maybe more research, trials and things like that for people that are positive. So that way, you know, hopefully they'll get closer to a cure. You know, approve more research grants so that way they can do more research into curing this virus as opposed to abating it.
It was real important for me to be out as an openly black gay man. And it's real important for me to be out as HIV positive, because looking at me, you would not be able to tell that I'm HIV positive. So it's about not living in the silence, it's about living in the hope. And that, you know, you can have HIV, you can survive HIV, you can actually encourage others to live a healthy life.
I think there's a lot of shame in the gay community. People don't want to talk about sex and drug addiction. How can we get them to talk about it?
Well, you know, for people, you know, like me to talk about, you know, their journey. And that it's not about shame. It's about
love.
It's about love, you know. Love about oneself, and to you know, it is okay to it's okay to admit, you know,
that
what we are, your problems, and that's the first step.
The Gay Pride Parade is over, and I met some very interesting people today, but it just really amazes me the stigmatism that exists about HIV and AIDS and how people are really unwilling to talk about it. And I think that is the biggest barrier to us overcoming AIDS. That is our biggest challenge, is that people are afraid to talk about HIV and AIDS. There's still so much shame associated with HIV and AIDS, and I really don't think that we have a leg to stand on in the battle against HIV and AIDS until we start talking about it more. We all need to talk about it a lot more with our friends, with our families, in our schools. Everyone needs to talk about HIV and AIDS. It's a fact of life. It's not going away. And yeah, we need to talk. There needs to be a conversation, and it needs to start with each and every one of us, and it needs to start now.